Hello, everyone. Let's try that one more time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dell stage here at the Gnomon campus, and welcome to another amazing Gnomon live stream. Wow, thank you very much for that. But we're not here for me tonight. If you're looking for closed captioning, please head over to our YouTube or our Facebook page. Next, we would like to thank our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA. Without them, we wouldn't be able to bring you such amazing streams you're about to see tonight. So welcome, everyone, to Behind the Scenes with Santa Monica Studio, God of War Ragnarok character art. And if any of you have been to one of these streams before, you know I can get a little long-winded, so I'll try and keep it short. I'm sure some of you in here maybe have played a video game before. Anybody raise your hand if you ever picked up a controller? Okay, a few of you. Very nice. Oh, good to see. That's good to know. Good to know. So I'm sure you all know that there are legacy and iconic video games, right? Games that have been around for a long time, that kind of set a precedent and that are in our minds and it's almost etched in stone, right? Stuff like Mario Brothers, Mario Kart, Sonic the Hedgehog, stuff along those lines. And the list, you know, is pretty set until a newcomer came along, and this was a while ago, and demanded our attention. Now, I know some of you may not remember when God of War first initially came out, but it crashed onto the scene like a bull in a china shop, man. There were just so many things that it did differently than any other game that had ever came before it. And they did it 3 times in a row with that game. And after that happened, there was going to be another game that they lovingly called God of War, and it was 2018. And I will say out here, and all you can attest to this and clip this if you want, I was a doubter. I wasn't sure that they were going to be able to capture that magic, right? And in 2018, if any of you have played it, that's a phenomenal game. It's really, really good. So when Ragnarok got announced, I was even more doubtful because I was like, there's no way that it's going to be good again, right? Because some wise person once said that lightning never strikes the same place twice, right? Lightning never strikes twice. I would like to add a caveat to that, however, that lightning never ever strikes twice unless you were part of the team that was part of the development of God of War Ragnarok. So that's our new quote here at Gnomon. So tonight, our guests will explore the challenges of reimagining classic characters from the game's DLC, creating a new hero and navigating the complexities of modern character pipelines. They'll share sculpting techniques, decal and texture workflow, and the strategies behind the cast of God of War Ragnarok and bringing them to life. You'll get an exclusive look at key assets from the game, including behind-the-scenes stories, and provide a rare glimpse into the world of character production at Santa Monica. Are you all ready? All right, please help me welcome Angela Rico and Eric Valdes.
Cool.
Hi,
you want to get going? We're on it.
Oh, hello.
Wow. It's the first time we turned them on, so we don't even know what's going on. Hey man, that was such a good intro. Holy crap. So as you can see, we're pretty happy, nervous, excited.
Super nervous.
This means a lot to us, and we know that it means a lot to you guys as well. So we try our best to inspire, to make sure that you guys are happy and you go home and create amazing art, and hopefully one day you get to work on many other God of War games yourself. So before we get going, I should
introduce yourself.
Should you go?
You want me to go? You go.
We actually rehearsed this, just like that. Well, a little bit about myself. My name is Eric Valdes. I was born and raised in Cuba. I speak multiple languages, which is why I sound so funny. And I wanted to be a professional breakdancer, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "There's no way I'm gonna be with a breakdancer. What else do you do?" And I said, "I play games and I draw." And 3 days later, she showed me a school, and that's exactly what they do at the school, Eric. They draw and they play video games. Sign me up. And so I got a degree in game art and design, where you learn all. There's a dog back there. You learn all aspects of game production. So pay attention in your classes, animation, rigging, everything, because it will be beneficial once you actually get to your jobs. So as I was going through that moment, this is a personal story where I started to grow facial hair, and I didn't know what to do with it. But I groomed it like my favorite. Why you laugh, man? this is personal to me. Okay, so I groomed it like my favorite video game character, Kratos. And I thought I was walking the streets of South Florida looking like the God of War, but in reality, I looked just like any other chico in South Florida. And I would also do the same thing when I was working out and I needed an extra oomph, extra energy. I would think of Kratos' rage mode. How honest. I know, super nerdy, I know. But it actually gave me the energy that Kratos never gave up, even after everything he went through. And it actually worked mentally, so I would do I would get the energy for that extra rep or the extra 2 sets or whatever. And I share that story just so that you know how personal it was for me to actually work on these games. Okay, it was a big deal. It wasn't the big studio, the big money, the glory, or anything like that. It was a very personal moment in my life that game got me through. So it was the biggest engine. Of course, once I got to the studio, I wanted the glory, the money, everything else. But what's important is the engine was very personal to me. So, yeah. Is that it?
And don't forget to mention that you were a teacher.
I was also a
here at
teacher
Gnomon.
here, and I just ramble on and off, and I just want to make sure there's security here in case they need to escort me out, because to keep you guys safe. So I was a student here, and there was a lot
teacher.
I was a teacher here, and there's a lot of talent in my classes. There's a lot of talent in this room, and there's a lot of talent next to me. So there you go.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. So I'm Angela Rico. I am a senior character artist at Santa Monica Studio. I come from Bogota, Colombia, and the original God of War also had a big impact for me. It's also the reason why I got into this industry, why I wanted to come and do what we do now. So I couldn't grow facial hair, but I would argue that I loved Kratos more than he did.
I don't know about that.
So yeah, so the dream to get into this industry led me to come to the US to go to school here, and I ended up coming here at Gnomon, and I graduated in 2019. And I was in the texturing and modeling and texturing track, but we also got some game classes, and it was during the 3rd year, like I was maybe a few terms out from graduating, that I got his character for games class. And at this time of my career or my portfolio stuff, I had decided to put all my portfolio to be more like environment stuff, because even though I wanted to do characters and creatures, a lot of people were telling me like, oh, you should go for environment because there's more jobs or it's safer. And me being like with lots of bills and student loans to pay off, I was like, okay, maybe I'll go the safe route. But then I took Eric's class, and so I have that to thank him, because he gave me that extra push to like really try to go for what I wanted to do, which was characters and creatures. So during the last couple terms, I just like redid my portfolio and try to get characters there. And also another story is that while I was taking his class, he took some of our portfolios to Santa Monica because there was a job opening, and he took mine and a couple more, like 3 or so, I don't know. So I got super excited, so I'm like, fingers crossed. But I didn't get the interview. But my friend did, and I was super happy for him because he actually got the job during his last term here. And I was super happy for him. Of course, I was sad, but it was never like deflated to the point that, oh, I missed my only chance, right? Like it just like lights up the fire to keep trying and catch up to everybody else. And I like bringing that up because you had a similar experience. I think you got denied from Santa Monica a couple of times.
Yeah, so I interviewed there 3 times, and something that we have in common, we didn't take that personally. We were just kind of like, we'll try it again. We'll get after it. It's just, so don't take it personally if that happens to you. We kind of believe that everything happens at the right time. Mm-hmm. So, because that allowed me to work at other studios and get more experience, and then once I landed at Santa Monica, I hit the ground running. And yeah, I just want to give a quick thanks to Sony for kind of like letting us do this, and obviously Gnomon for setting this whole thing up as well. And I don't work there anymore, so this is super nice of them. So I only say that in case if you need a job after this, just ask her. Don't ask me. Okay, leave me alone.
He gets to give the good advice.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like now that you know a little bit about ourselves, and you see how nervous and how happy and everything we got going on. So Let's get right into it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we decided to start with Valhalla. It's kind of like the most recent post that the team did. We feel like it covers a lot of the stuff that a school might not be able to replicate. Things and technical challenges, visual problems that we can kind of share with the latest post and kind of hopefully help students and new artists in the industry. So yeah, let's get right into it. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, when we started talking about the DLC, we were joining meetings where directors, Mihir and Bruno, were telling us that they really wanted to bring back young Kratos. So when they say that, you know, the fangirls in us were like super excited.
For sure.
So we really needed to go and figure out what was going to work from what we had and what were the limitations, what we could do or not do. So the first thing I did was take, you know, the original Kratos, and I removed his beard just to see what was going on underneath. And we were really impressed by how well like the face was sculpted. Like, it's a big shout out to Raf
Yeah,
Grassetti.
huge shout out to Grassetti, because you could tell the guy knew what he was doing. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's a big influence in all of us. And if you're a character artist, for sure. So when we removed the beard, we saw the structure of the face was so good. It was so good. It definitely felt like a modern version of the Kratos that we all knew. And it felt so natural. And you could tell that he was working from the inside out, making sure that the anatomy and everything was perfect. And everything you put on top of that face, it just feels phenomenal. So when we decided to work on the goatee, yeah, it was just crazy. It looked so much like the actual character. So.
Yeah. So yeah, so like one of the limitations we had was we couldn't change the geometry on the face because, you know, Kratos has already been rigged, skin, animated. He's already gone through the whole pipeline. So we had to only, you know, keep up what's existing there. So the first thing I did was make him white, bring back the red, just doing like a texture update. And we just threw him in the game and built the game like that just to see how he would look. And he was feeling so cool already. And then for like the beard, I started like deleting part of it, like leaving a little bit longer, maybe leaving a little bit of the mustache for like the whole thing.
Shadow.
Yeah. So we tried different styles, but then like Raf really helped us art direct the look that you see here that we ended up with. But yeah, let me go to the next one. So the next step was I did like a quick remesh of the custom. So we had a really basic skirt with the belt. And again, we just wanted to throw it in the game right away just to see what we were working with. And so what I did was I grabbed this basic geo and I transferred the skinning waist from the existing Ragnarok belt and the skirts. So just transferring that skinning and rigging information, because I'm not a rigger, I'm just copy-pasting just to see what it looks like. And running in the game with this skirt and these textures, like everybody started getting super excited and I'm pumped up and like, okay, we really gotta make this happen.
I mean, we were the biggest fans, of course, and the moment we saw it working and in a cinematic, and we knew that we could do it, we showed it to our art director, Grassetti. He loved it. Then we showed it to our DLC directors. They freaked out. They loved it. And we were pretty pumped because we knew that this was just a temp test, and we knew that it was going to get better. But it was already a success from the beginning. So that was awesome. So we were kind of like just pumped. All right, now let's get it to the final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing they brought up during the meetings was that they really wanted to let the player play as young Kratos. And then, you know, that means that you're going to be able to swap between skins and armor sets. And that had to work with the young Kratos costume. So it was a lot of back and forth because I had to bring every single set that we had, which he has a lot, and just make sure that the skirt fits the thickest one. But then when he's bare-chested, it's not like floating. And there was a lot of tweaking, like nonstop, but we got there.
It sounds like an easy task, but there's so many different armor sets, so many different styles, so many different length of way it ended, that Angela had to go through all the armor sets, making sure that everything worked. And it was a lot of armor sets. So, yeah.
But yeah, once everything started working in game, everything was like, everybody was like, okay, we can make this happen. Then we can go have fun sculpting. So I had a lot of fun sculpting. Always, you know, as I was sculpting, always bringing the original armor sets to make sure that it was always fitting. And another one of the challenges was the legs. Because because the original Kratos doesn't have. When I say original, I mean the Ragnarok Kratos doesn't have a leg system under the pants. So at one point they were like, well, maybe we can have young Kratos with pants on, like just leave the pants on. And Eric was like,
I was like, no way. If we're gonna do young Kratos, we do him all the way.
Yeah, we have to get the legs.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So this is something that no one's telling us to do. This is just us in the character department, kind of like showing initiative. Like we want to really make it work. We are the biggest fans. We love it. So what can we do to make it happen? And so I was pushing for legs, and Angela was, oh, yeah, let's get legs in there. And then we started playing with that. That presented other problems, but yeah, if you want to go deeper into that.
Yeah, so I started again with a gray mesh, just some basic leg shape, and again I threw it in the game right away, and I copied the rigging information, the weights, from the pants onto the legs. And then just run the game like that. And even though, there's still some cleanup that needed to happen, but that existing skinning of rigging was already like 80, 90% there. Like it was very close. So that gave people the confidence to keep moving forward because we wouldn't have to like re-rig or reanimate Kratos. And one of the main challenges with the legs is, as you guys know, the original young Kratos has super long legs and he's like super stylized and elongated. And that worked for the camera angle back then in those games. But Kratos having more realistic proportions, when I got the legs in there, he looked very short. And his legs, like I'm trying to give him muscle, and they look chubby. So it was a lot of tweaking of like getting the right width and then just playing around with the thickness and of the thighs and the calves to give it that elongated feel, but then make it fit to the rig. Like even the knee, we were moving it like a millimeter up, and like just the tiniest of bits, and it felt different. And we were like tweak a little bit and build the game, and just the legs look too skinny. Okay, thicken them a little bit, run the game again. No, it's not working, and it just. And
we did that for days almost. Like it wasn't. We get the knee feeling all right, and then we have to adjust the lower legs, and then we have to adjust the skirt. When we really took a lot of pride on delivering a special model, right? It's just, we were the character artists in the crew, so no one's gonna love this more than us, and we loved working on Mr. Kratos, of course.
And then the textures.
Yeah.
Everything was working already in game, and the textures were fun to do, and got a lot of feedback from art direction from Grassetti and from Eric. And yeah, this is what it ended up being, and it's a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I added to this was just the eyeliner, right? I just said, more eyeliner. And I had to say it so much, it almost felt like I had to bring an eyeliner to the studio and do like this. And then Angela was like, okay, Eric, I'll do it,
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was awesome. Everyone was super happy. Everyone at the studio is a fan. Kind of like what they were saying at the beginning, we were like, oh, like how do you make the game look special? I'm like, you get the right people in there. Everyone loves the games and the characters, so there's no way that we're gonna let it not look good, not feel awesome. There's no way, Yeah.
You want to talk about the Greek enemies?
Yeah. So I guess we should probably, So let's just establish that this is a DLC, and there's quite a bit of restrictions. The resources are very small, and we have to reuse so much, okay? The reason why we had to fit everything into Kratos, we couldn't get a new rig for Kratos. We already have animation. We already have everything working. So it was the same thing with working with the other characters. We got a cast of characters from the directors of the DLC that they wish they would see on the DLC. And then I took it on me to kind of like find a pipeline that could work. So I had access to the old games, the original games, the ones that were super dear to my heart. And we looked through the characters in there. We found the skelly that you see in here, and then I put it into the Drugger rig from the new game, push and pull, just soft selection, match the rig, and build it to the game. Game fails, you have to delete the cloth patches, things were like error out, and then you build it again, and then I ended up having a version of the old model running in the new game. And that was a big success, okay? Because all of a sudden we knew that we could deliver. We knew that we could unblock other departments. We knew that people can move forward without us blocking anybody. So this is already a test that, so I took all that information and I delivered to Angela and Josiah. They were the main artists on the DLC. And this is Josiah already taking the test that I did to a much, much cleaner level. And that's kind of what you're seeing right here, right now. Just that old model in the new rig being played with the Kratos. So.
Yeah, it was really cool because all the old models became the gray meshes for this game. And it was really cool opening the original models.
It was,
seeing the original Cyclops. It was cool. So yeah, that was a test for the Skelly. Oh, wait. Next. So this is that after we did those tests, then we took it for the rest of the cast. So this is a test that I made with the original Cyclops geometry. And again, I just copy-pasted the skinning weights from, I think, the Troll or the Jotun from Ragnarok.
One of those, I don't even remember.
And so just to see how it would work. And you know, you see a lot of stretching because obviously there's not properly skinned, but it's like 80% there. Like it's already a huge time saver if we reuse these rigs. I think we have one more.
There you go, to the next one.
Yeah. And then this is another test that Josiah made with the Minotaur. And one of the main concerns they had with this one is that the design had the goat legs, and we didn't have a rig that supported goat leg or animation or the actual extra joint. So he did the test copying the rigging information from a regular biped rig. And it works so good. Like, I know, you know, again, it needs cleanup, but
it works so good.
It almost feels like there's an extra joint there supporting that goat leg. So yeah.
Yeah, and
cool.
there isn't any at all. So that was a huge success. That, you know, this is everything you're about to hear is super biased character art opinion. All right. So for me, character art is the best, and I expected environment artists to sit here and say they're the best, and on and on and on. So for us, character art is the best. So. The fact that we were able to figure this out, and we put that information on rigging and on everybody else, and they knew what to do, honestly, just from what we wanted to do. And so this is for a final look that we landed on with the scaling that Bernardo and Josiah did. It was awesome to actually figure it out, because as the environments get done, lighting gets done, so you have to keep going back to the characters, retweaking them, adjusting values, adjusting metals, as other departments keep adding and adding and adding. So it's not like you just texture it once and that's it, you're done. You know, you really are crafting an experience for the players, and we are aware of that. So we just kind of keep going back and perfecting it. So this is what we landed on the Legionnaire, and this is another example. If you want to just...
Yeah, the Wraith was sculpted by Andrew and Bernardo. They both really did a great job with it, and then I had the chance to texture their sculpt, and you know, the texture just looked so cool from the get-go because the sculpt was so good.
Yeah.
So it was really cool texturing. I also got to bring back the harpy, and you know, even though we couldn't add the boobs, can I say boobs? We still tried to find like a design that's still going to make it feel like the original harpy. And one of the main challenges I had with this one was the texturing, because the design of the character itself is very simple. So it was just reading too blue, like it was too flat, I would say. So I had a lot of, you know, good advice on like breaking up the colors and the gradients on the harpy, and I think it turned out cool, or she.
Yeah, well, it turned out awesome, because it's
annoying.
It's still annoying as it was in the original games.
So we succeeded.
So annoying.
Then,
yeah, well, and we went on, and this was a different challenge that Josiah had to tackle, because we couldn't obviously match the width of the shoulders of the original character, and how do we get the essence of that other character on the new rig, on the new set? And that's hard. You know, visual problem solving is incredibly hard. I think our artists, we tend to just kind of like, oh, it's easy, and we can make it look easy, but it really isn't at all to have an understanding of what is appealing, or how do you capture the essence of an old character into a new one. And I think we actually succeeded quite well on this character. So incredible, great kudos to Josiah for figuring that out. Yep. Yeah, well, this is the same thing with the oh my God, what's the name of this? The witch.
The siren.
So, you know, all these things for me are like almost like memory capsules, right? So I remember in this one, Bernardo, he's an external artist, and he, without having direct access to the engine, he was able to capture the look of the character just on substance. He had already known the level of reds and the values and everything, and the moment we took his textures and implemented it into the engine, it just worked. And it's so awesome to work with people that actually love what they do and they know how to do it very well, and this is a perfect example of that. I just wanted to share that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so also Josiah killing it with the Minotaur here, and I remember this was, you know, it had its own challenges, like with the dark skin and the metal, and I remember telling him, dude, make the metal more metal, and he's like, Eric, what does that even mean, bro? I was like, I don't know, just make the metal more metal, and then he added gold to the metal, and he made it more special, and he figured it out, you know.
Yeah, but you gotta learn that if you work with Eric, you add gold to anything, and he'll approve it.
I love gold.
And then another character I got to bring back was the Cyclops, which was super cool because it was one of my favorite original enemies.
Yeah.
And had a lot of fun sculpting this one. I have to thank Andrew because he helped me a lot. He's really good at texturing, or not texturing, sculpting details on creatures. So he gave me a lot of advice, and then Eric, great art direction by Raf, and Eric helped me push it through the finish line. And yeah, it was really cool to work on, and the texturing. The main challenge on the texture was that at first I was doing him kind of more yellowish, and so Eric was pushing the blues and the darkness around his neck so that the face stands out. So when he's fighting, like, you know, the face is the most important, so he really has to stand out from the background areas, in this case the shoulders. And one of my favorite notes for this guy that you gave me were, I don't know if you can see the light areas in between the scales. You know, at first I made them dark because they're crevices, and we put dirt in all crevices, right? So then Eric was like, oh, why don't you make that lighter? I was like, oh, you mean darker? He was like, no, lighter. I was like, okay. So I did a little bit lighter. He's like, no, lighter, like almost white. I was like, what is he talking about? And so when I did it, and it started clicking and coming together, and it looks so cool because it kind of feels like he's about to start peeking on the scales, and it feels like raw skin in between. So I thought it was a super cool idea. Yeah, that and the hair cards on the chest.
Yeah. And so that whole note on like pushing the neck back and so that the head then sticks out. That is a total like illustration type of looking at the models. I've worked in other games where you don't have super high res textures, so you really have to understand gradients and how to bring the attention up to the face, or how do you enhance the gameplay experience? So we had already seen animations, we had already seen movements on the character, so now it was our part to then enhance that gameplay experience and kind of utilizing something that I learned working on very stylized games into realistic games, and it still applies. There are ways that you can actually make it work, and as Angela, that was a simple note that I gave her, and she knocked it out of the park with this one, so yeah, it was super cool. All right, cool. So was that helpful? Yeah? All right, cool. Cool. So let's get right into Ragnarok. And so I was part of the first game, 2018 crew. And so after we finished that game, the whole team dissolved, and everyone kind of went on their own way. And it was left to me and Grassetti to build up a new team. In the first game, we were kind of like, trying to figure out as we went. And on the second one, we were determined to make things better, adjust things, and make adjustment to adjust. Wow. And we were just trying to make the whole pipeline better in general. So that started with hiring the right people, okay? I had experience at Luma Pictures where it was cool, where they show that with the right leadership, you can get a crew of young, hungry artists, and they can create amazing things, okay? And I shared that with Grassetti, and he was on board with it, okay? So then we built up a team of young, hungry artists, and I don't know if the old crew would hate me, but I'll say it. Like, I feel like we did so much better art on Ragnarok than the original crew. And I was part of the original crew. So I'm totally okay. I feel like if you're doing that, you are doing your job. You are supposed to do better than the crew before you. Okay? You're supposed to. If someone comes and tells you, oh yeah, like so-and-so came and did a better job than you on that thing, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. Thank God they did that, you know? So we did that. We hired the right people, again, passionate about the game, and we kicked ass. So, yeah.
And Gnomon is a good example too with the portfolios. Like each term, like the portfolios keep getting so much more professional and better. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get right into Ragnarok. So this is something that for me, as we were discussing, you know, what do we want to go over to students, to new people in the industry, like what should we talk about? So this is something that for me is quite normal, all right? And Angela really wanted to talk about this because it was something that for her, being new in the industry back then, was quite shocking, and she wanted to, hey, I feel like new people, students would benefit from hearing about how we work. So yeah, also I'll let her kind of just run with it.
Yeah, no, it was mainly because I often get asked if when we get a concept art, do we take it from sculpt to texture to finish all the way through? And that's never the case at our studio.
Never.
So the way we do things, I'll just run through it kind of quickly. When we get the concepts, the whole team is doing gray meshes for the characters. So what this means is that we're doing a basic model that can be too detailed. You're not sculpting anything, but it can't be too basic either. It has to be like informative enough that you are representing the character and you are showing people like the personality of the character, like the proportions are a big deal.
The essence of the character.
Yeah. And so we do this, and then we hand it off to rigging to unlock every other department. So they start rigging, animation start playing with it, combat starts playing with it, and you know the ball gets rolling this way. So yeah, we're all doing gray meshes for a while. And then once most of the cast or all of the cast is in gray mesh stage, then we can start sculpting. I like to say too that gray mesh is super important because that's like the first time the directors get to see something in game. So it really has to represent the cast. Then yeah, we have a lot of time of sculpting. So when I'm done with one character, then I send it off to outsourcing. And outsourcing does the low poly and the bake for us. And they also do a base groom from the sculpted hair. Like we sculpt like a rough volume and flow of the hair that we want. And they do a first pass for that. So then while I'm waiting for outsourcing to do my character, then I go on to do a different sculpt of a different character. And so everybody's just doing mostly sculpting.
Yeah, it's not linear.
It's not linear, yeah. And so like while we're sculpting, then we'll get the characters back from outsourcing, and then we have to give them notes and making sure that everything is up to our standards and everything's working great. And then once the character is ready to come back, then we go through a process called rig prepping, which is, we call it more like geo grooming. So we just want to make sure that the characters are like the geos, like the joints are where rigging wants them to be, where we make sure that there's no geo-penetrating each other, that like if it's got skirts layers, that there's like a little space in between so that rigging has an easier time with the skirts. So just really checking everything, making sure there's no baking errors. And then we can give that to rigging, and then we go back to sculpting something else, or checking another rig prep. So it's really organic, like everything's switching all the time. But we do spend about 2-3 years doing this process of gray mesh, sculpting, rig prepping. And it's not until like the last year that we actually start having texturing tasks. And so by the time that time comes around, it really depends on the scheduling or who's faster at texturing what. And so, you know, I might not get to texture the character that I sculpted. So then at this point, like team trusting comes into play. It's very important because we really, you know, we trust each other. We know that we're gonna make justice to the character that somebody else sculpted. Yeah, and then Eric will always tell us to like check with the person, like, okay, if you're texturing his character, I expect you to go talk to them, you know, talk to how they envision the character, and just keep the communication open.
It only feels right? Like if you're working on a character that someone else gray meshed or did the outsourcing, that it only feels right for you to communicate with that person. Hey, I'm gonna do this with this character. What were you thinking? And vice versa. I feel like that's a healthy way to go about it. And it has to work from both ends, right? If you're already working on it, or if you're going to work on somebody else's. So I mentioned it's not linear at all, and it really isn't, right? So this is easy structure for us to present and talk about it, but in reality is back and forth like this. So, and it's cool because let's say when someone else gets a sculpting task, it raises the bar, right? The benchmark of what the quality we want for the game is. And then that person, for whatever reason, has to stop and work on something else. And then everybody else comes in, meets that, and it looks awesome. And then they get excited, they get pumped, and then elevate the quality of the characters. And it happens on and off. And everyone is growing, everyone is learning, everyone is in such a healthy way. None of the toxic crap at all, because everyone is just so engaged and on what's happening and how you're getting pumped just by the person sitting next to you is just incredibly and it happens in the sculpting. And then it goes to the texturing, and everyone's like, oh my God, great, incredible texture. Let's go. How do we match that? And we'll have conversations, and so it's super cool. It's long, right? Because it takes, like Angela said, it takes years, but we were the right crew to deal with that. So
yeah, I think we were lucky that we had our crew was very no ego, because a lot of us were new. This was our first game working, so we were
all superstars
there to learn and be humble and be able to take feedback, because we really wanted to learn. We looked up to these artists, and yeah, it was a good crew.
It was awesome. And you know, sometimes you work with artists who, this is a real production artist type of experience. Okay, sometimes I won't say any names, but you can have people that are amazing sculptors, but they cannot put a Maya scene together at all. You don't want that. Okay, you really want to be, if you want to be a production artist, you don't want to put a stop on the flow of a character. So we had a crew where it was so balanced. We were so lucky, and everyone there is an absolute badass. So yeah.
But yeah, so and towards the end of the game, we got a lot of time of polishing. So even though you already did your final texture, the moment we put in the game, you know, lighting changes, effects come into play, like a lot of stuff, and maybe textures start falling behind or get lost in the environments. So then we do try to set aside time to actually play through the game and then pause. I don't like that. Let's texture, let's fix the colors, values, saturation. Okay, let's keep it running. And that was my favorite part, just running through the game and pausing every 5 seconds to fix something.
And on Ragnarok, we worked a lot smarter than I don't want to say smarter than the first one. The first one, we were just making it up as we went. But on Ragnarok, we were kind of more conscious of, like, hey, if we do things right since the beginning, we're going to have a lot more time for polishing at the end. And it was cool because we thought of that at the beginning, and that is exactly what happened. And the crew that came in just spent most of the time on polishing and just increasing the quality that went into the product, increasing the player experience, and not so much in bug fixing. So it was cool.
Yeah, we're proud to not have that many bugs on our tasks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, this is super important. Yeah, if I were you guys, I would take a screenshot of this, okay?
Too late, it's gone.
Yeah. Oh, it's gone now. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
I think sculpting.
Yeah, all right, so now, you know, obviously we over-prepared, all right? So we might not even be able to go through all the slides, and we just wanted to be, you know, better safe than sorry. And I think we're too safe, and we're gonna be sorry. And so this is a sculpting extravaganza now that we wanted to show, because when we put it all together and we saw everyone's work, we're like, oh, it's sick. Let's show it, and I'll share stories. For me, from being in a lead position is a little bit different, where I can look at everyone's work. So I'll share my experience with that, and then Angela can share her experience of just being a badass sculptor. So cool. I'll go to the next one if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, so on this mermaid, you see the Andrew Arisa. I wonder if you can see it. Yeah, so that one is so cool. It looks so small here, you know? Look how it looks so impressive up there. And so this is Andrew and Grassetti's avatar tales coming together and giving birth to a beautiful character, okay? This is the beautiful surface detail that Andrew creates with the amazing design that Grassetti creates on the characters. And boom, there was an awesome, awesome mermaid that I hadn't really seen anything like that ever before. So, and then on the Angela Rico, this lady is sitting next to me. So this one, there was a gray mesh already circulating around. And this was kind of like when we now feed off of like, okay, we do the gray mesh, it does its rounds, it already goes through feedback, gameplay, combat, and all that. Now we were looking at that behavior of the character, and how do we add that now into the sculpt? Okay, so.
So yeah, Eric was telling me to like think about like cars, like when cars are fast, like because he needed to be fast and speed
aggressive.
was the theme and aggressive. So it's like, yeah, like cars, when they're fast, they have those lines going back, pushing everything back for the speed. So I was really trying to capture that with not just the beak and the structure, but also the flow of the feathers, like just the placement of the feathers. And they were placed by hand. I do get asked sometimes that if we use any like tools to do any hair or card placement, but they were all placed by hand just to try to kind of keep everything flowing back, like as if the wind was hitting him.
And I think once we saw that, Grassetti and I were like, that's it. It feels fast, it feels aggressive, and the moment this goes into the game, it'll just suit the character, it'll just fit. It'll just be a perfect fit. Behavior and look, fantastic. So that was a cool thing for me to watch, just kind of like seeing how all the artists, they go through these moments where they all grow. Josiah had a similar experience with this one, just kind of like creating the feeling of that leather thing. I have this philosophy where like, hey, I don't, you can color paint all you want, the model, but I really want to see it without any colors, okay? Because you should be able to tell the differences between the surfaces without colors, okay? So this was, I was kind of explaining that to Josiah. He was up to the challenge, and Grassetti was also involved on the feeling of this balancing that out. And honestly, it turned out so good that when the moment you get that feeling that you almost want to feel it, okay? That is when you actually have done it. And when Josiah actually did that treatment on it, it felt like that. And Grassetti and I were like, let's rock and roll. In comparison with the other materials next to it, it looks different. Like it feels different, yeah? And so that's like one of the cool memories that I remember from this with Josiah. These people might not even remember this, but I remember it. It's the coolest shit ever. And then Spiro did an amazing job on this. At first I had asked him to like, hey, just go crazy. It was my fault. I said, dude, go crazy with the detail. And he went crazy, okay? It was so much detail. And then I had forgotten that I told him, yeah, man, like, go crazy. And I was
with
telling
the wear and tear.
With the wear and tear, yeah. And he was telling me, dude, I did what you told me. And I was like, no, man, like, he looks like a homeless guy in Venice or something, And he was like, okay, Eric, come on, man. I was like, all right, dude. And then he took it back a little bit. And he came back to me and was like, dude, you were right. The character already had so much detail that he didn't need to add so much on top of it, okay? And I said, all right, man. I also should have said, don't go crazy, But he went crazy, and
yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, when you get notes, it's better to go like 200%, right?
Yep.
Like, if your director says, like, make it a little bit more dirty, then you're not going to be like, be
Yeah,
shy.
that's the worst,
And then
yeah.
have the art director say, no, more dirty. And then you do a little bit more, no, more dirty. Then it makes you look bad. Like don't you get what I want you, even if you don't get it? But but then if you go like, 150, 200%, then the art director could be like, oh, okay, cool, now let's bring it back. And then, it's just a better experience, makes you look better. So always try to push more than you think you need to. And then it's better to bring it back.
Yeah, even though we were laughing about it and we were having a good time, it's just exactly what I wanted. It's just go on, like have fun. And Spiro was also a student here. He was a student at Gnomon, so he was also a superstar there. So yeah.
Oh, this is
Did he
amazing.
freeze?
Froze. Okay.
And all right, so you do more sculpting extravaganza here with the. So Andrew's, the way that Andrew handles surface detail is masterful. Okay, so I always like to say, just kind of like keep, if you want to learn that, just get his tutorials, sign up to his mentorship. When it comes to surface detailing, he's probably one of the best. Do the same thing with Grassetti, buy his videos, and then we take all that information and apply it to your classes. Okay, you'll probably get even better grades, and you probably get even better direction for your demo reels and stuff. So I highly recommend it that you guys do that with Andrew's and Grassetti's tutorials. So yeah, so we also work Bruno Camera, like a fantastic sculptor, so he helped us a lot with that character. And then on Alec, I'll share a quick story. So Della Longfish, an amazing lead concept artist at Santa Monica, he shows me this concept of this dragon. And I was like, dude, this is the coolest dragon I've ever seen. Long neck, 2 tails, long tail, like a rider. And I sculpted the whole thing in 3D. And it looked awesome. We both looked at each other like, dude, this is the greatest character we've ever made. We high-fived, we low-fived, we slapped ass, we did everything. If I could have turned into a dragon at the studio, he would have jumped on my shoulders, or we would have flown around the studio. We were that hyped, okay? And so we showed it to Grassetti, then we showed it to comeback designers, we showed it to the director, and they loved it. So the gray mesh starts going around, and then they go, hey, we got to make the neck a little shorter. You got it, the neck shorter. Hey, we got to make the tail a little shorter. Okay. Hey, we got to make the torso shorter, but leave the rider the same size. Okay. And then we looked at the character, and it looked like the guy was riding a chicken. And then we said, can we remove the rider now that there's no, and this is something that I think is good to mention, where like creativity flourishes in limitations, okay, in restrictions. So now we had boundaries, right? Now we could really be creative. And us being the professionals that we are, we stood up to the challenge, and we were like, okay, now that we have these dimensions, we'll make it work, and we'll make something badass. And and we did, and we adjusted the whole thing. We took all the references. Obviously, the character took a different behavior. And then once he landed on Alec, he just knocked it out of the park, and me and Della are happy, Alec is happy. And this is just one of the cool stories that I hope that you guys, when you get to your studios, get to experience. You cannot put that into a disc, but me and Della would always have that. You know, it's the coolest thing ever, you know, so, yeah.
Alec was also a student here, by the way.
And Alec was also a student here, yeah.
And Alvaro.
And Alvaro Zavala here was also a student. He also worked with us on Ragnarok, and then later, at some point in Ragnarok, we absorbed a different crew with Ryan, Bob, Anthony, and Justin, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but they came in hungry. They wanted to meet the standards of Santa Monica. They wanted to just help us, and I love that. You much rather have that problem than someone who's not inspired. So yeah, it was a pleasure working with them as well. And Luke and Bernardo doing those heads are incredible. So. And so this is the Thor I made for the original, for the 2018 God of War. I believe, okay, I'm getting old, so my memory is not what it used to be. But so I did this character. I believe it was in one day. It was an 18-hour day, and I think Maxon's textured. I can't remember exactly, but it was just one of those things that we needed something, and no one has to tell me to work that long, but we needed it. And me being the crazy guy that I am, I really wanted to make something awesome. And so I Frankensteined this whole Thor version, and we were able to kind of get it rolling. And that became the gray mesh for the Thor in Ragnarok, which we already had direction from what Eric Williams, our director, wanted. Grassetti took all that information, then he shared it with Della, and then amongst themselves, they came up with this awesome design for Thor for Ragnarok. And honestly, when he landed on my lap, all I had to, do was just let his hands do their magic, And I just made him look cool, but he was already figured out the huge thanks to those guys. So yeah, and then so I did my magic and the sculpting, and then he went on to our superstar texture artist, Angela Rico. She's right here.
Hi. So yeah, when I mentioned the gold, that he likes gold, he even told me to put gold on the leather. I was like, why, how? Like, that's not realistic. Were you crazy? But then we started adding gold to the leather on Thor, and it just made him feel so much more special, like a god. Like, even if it doesn't make sense, like, that's when your creativity,
I remember saying, yeah, you know what would be cool if you add gold to the trims, and you're like, I don't know, Eric. Just do it, man. And Angela did it, and it looked awesome.
No, I put gold on everything, too.
Now she puts gold on everything.
But yeah, but their texturing was super cool. I remember I was doing a lot of the leathers, like reds, like warm leathers. And Raf was like, no, you need to make them more blue, contrast with the hair. And once I applied that note, everything started like clicking and coming together. So it was super cool, and figuring out how to do the leathers over the leathers. And then one time I saw Eric's nails and they looked dirty, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool if Thor had dirty nails. And so that's why they're dirty. So.
This is the abuse I received to everyone in Ragnarok.
It looks cool though, the nails.
But it was cool.
Go to the next one.
It's so funny.
And then, yeah, so we just wanted to show some examples of the hair, how we do like some basic sculpts on the hair. It doesn't have to be nothing, perfect or pretty, but just kind of like establishing the volume and like the flow of the hair that we want to have. And then outsourcing does a first pass on the hair cards, all by hand. And then when it would come back, Amanda would take it and run with it and make amazing hair. Like, she kicked ass on all of these. Amanda was such an expert with this. Like, sometimes she would get the hair from outsourcing and be like, okay, I can work with this and make it better. Or sometimes she'd be like, oh, this is like, I can do better. And then she would just like start almost from scratch and then like do an amazing job. Like, this one was always super mind-blowing to us. Like, the volume that Andrew got in the sculpt was super cool, and then Amanda came and did that with the hair. It's like...
Yeah, so it helps a lot to actually just bust it out in 3D, You can get art directed, you can get a sense of how it's going to flow, you can get a sense of how it's going to move, and then once we figure that out in 3D and it's art directed, then we just send it down the pipe. Yep.
Okay.
Cool. So as obviously the theme throughout this whole thing is how personal working on Kratos is for me, for her, and everyone at the studio. It's super, super important. So in this, you've probably seen these images online and everything, but you have not heard my stories. So I was the main guy on doing armor sets for the first God of War 2018. And for this version, Grassetti looked at what we had done on that first game, and then he was moving it around, what felt good, and working with Della and his crew, just kind of like what the base costume is so hard. Okay, it has to look cool, but it has to feel cool, effective, simple, and still like be marketable. All right, super hard. Okay, because then you also have to work in progression. It has to make sense that after you play the game, you get all different armors, and they have to feel like the player feels rewarded by changing into a different. So the base armor is so hard, okay, and it's simple, but simplicity is incredibly hard to get. So this is an incredible work by Grassetti, and I'm gonna make everyone here vomit, okay? But this is an absolute truth. And I always like to say that, so my sculpting hands were perfected by working with Grassetti. My eye was perfected by working with Lois Zimmerman at Luma Pictures. And my design sense was perfected by working with Della Longfish. And my lion heart and my bravery or whatever is because of my mom and my dad. But absolute truth, these people are amazing. And I think once you guys get into the industry, you really want to look for mentors, and you really want to look for people that can elevate you. Not the whole financial thing is important, but I think you're early enough in your careers that you really want good mentors. You really want people that can just shoot you to the stars, and they'll enjoy it as well. So I was lucky Of course, I had to put a lot of work into it myself, but I was lucky that all these people were so generous with their knowledge. I know, so corny, huh? I know, but it's the truth.
I forgot to click next every time you were
Yep.
talking.
We practiced it only 20 times. So on here, I had a similar issue with, how do you texture leather on leather? And then also the same color issues where do we go too red or more blue? And Grassetti has a good eye for like, hey, we just add a little bit of a tint of blue into the leather. And when Angela did that to Thor, the whole guy came together. When I did the same thing with Kratos. Besides also adjusting the values and the layering of all the pieces. So yeah, just the good old boy,
And then you know how I said that we outsource all geometry? It doesn't always happen that way, especially when your outsourcing studio is celebrating New Year's, Chinese New Year's.
Yeah.
So that was the case with Kratos. We needed him pretty quick because there was like marketing and trailers, videos that needed to be made. So we had to retopo him in-house. So since this had to be quickly done, both Josiah and I took the task to retopo Kratos. And we just wanted to show this, just so you guys can see kind of like how his geometry was working. I just want to point out that everything is carefully placed on the model. Every edge loop has a purpose of being there. Like for example, on the shoulder, you see that Josiah did that piece. You see that he started retopoing the stitches, and that's because that's the section that's on the camera when you're playing the game. So it's the most important area that you see all the time as a player. That's why it has so much detail in that area. For example, the extra edge loops that you see on the shoulder area, they're not there because there's more detail sculpted or anything, but because with Eric's experience with the other armor sets in the 2018 game, he knew that there was a lot of issues with the rigging here. So like from the get-go, he said add more edge loops so that rigging can have an easier time skinning that area. But then as you see, for example, the legs, they're way lower because obviously the legs are not as important and not on camera as often. Things like on the waist and the arms, which is the area that I did on the left. You want to make sure that when you have objects sitting one in front of the other, you want to make sure that all those objects line up as much as you can.
Yep.
With the edges. So yeah, if you have the belt, and if you go through the see-through mode, you should be able to see everything kind of line up as much as you can.
Yeah, and I'm super picky when it comes to geometry.
Super annoying.
It's super annoying. And
I learned a lot though.
And just because I know how important it is for every vertice to be in the right place, or every loop to be where it should be. So like let's say in the armor, if I put one vertice, the line is coming here, but when it falls on the bottom, the vertex is on this side, and it skews one way. When this arm is happier or down here, and the rigger is actually trying to paint weights, and he's trying to align the vertices, he's just gonna stretch your geometry. It's just gonna cause pains when he's animating and it's not gonna behave correct. Imagine now one vertex being off, but now you have 50,000 vertices that are off, and someone has to paint that. Not under my watch, not my crew. So we take care of our geometry. We are professionals. We are the ones that should care about every pixel and every vertex in our characters. So it's not perfect, right? But we always try our best, okay? I know I was a little bit of pain in the ass but I feel like we
learned a lot,
yeah.
And it was an interesting experience too, because I come from a cinematic background. So my topology, my first pass was way too high. And then Josiah comes from a games background, so his was way too low. So it was an interesting journey trying to learn from each other, and I was learning to optimize, he was learning to add detail, and just meet in the middle to kind of have the topology density that you see here.
Yeah.
And just as annoying as he was with the topology, he was just as annoying with the UVs. So you see there's like, we try to waste no space on the UVs. And this comes down to, like, sometimes some of the texture sets get baked down to like 512.
Yeah.
So even, for example, the legs, all the textures get down to 512, and they still look good because there's like literally no space wasted on those pants UVs.
Yeah, so just because the character artist took care of those UVs, okay, of prepping it up properly, now later on when we need to optimize, when we need to bring down the texture memory down just so that the game runs, hey, no problem, because we set it up correctly. So we can lower the textures down of the pants from 2K, 1K to 512s, and still work, and we get the character back on budget, and just because we did our UVs correct. Isn't that crazy? Okay? So I know that right nowadays it's just like everyone's like, no, don't do UVs, and there was a nanomesh or whatever the hell is in the engines, but so crucial that you care about the UVs and every pixel that it's in it.
And it's really, like, as a character artist, you kind of have the liberty a little bit of break away from the whole texel density thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know for environment that's very important, but for us, like, the texel density doesn't match at all. Like, you know, if this is his important part, I'm gonna give a lot of UV space to this. The feet and the shoes don't need that much, so I'm gonna make him this big. So you really have to, you know, obviously this is the most important part, so you just gotta pick and choose what the camera is gonna see, what the character is going to be shown the most, and give the most UV space to that, and then everything else gradually gets smaller. I remember UVing the shirt for Freya, and you know, at first I was trying to make it, because I was learning to make everything like super square and straight, and then I remember it being, you know, just the whole torso was just a big square. And then I remember you told me to like grab this center edge loop and like soft select bigger. And so like this area gets more UV space, and as it goes in the back, it just gets squished and like almost no UV space. And I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, because she has long hair and
it's core in that area.
And a cape and everything. So.
And then this area is looking like 4K. It was like, wow.
Yeah, it looks 4K, but in reality
it was like 1K.
Yeah. So it's super cool.
Yeah.
And so I also like to say that, so since we have gone through a bunch of armor sets on the first game, so I already knew kind of like where the joints were placed by rigging, like where the distance that you needed to place the leathers from the skin. And honestly, this was the easiest. The moment we checked this in, there was no round of feedback. It wasn't sent back. It was just one way, and that was super cool. And Axel was super thankful for that. Again, just because, you know, like the whole philosophy that we had of like, well, whatever we learn on the first one, we'll make it better on the second one. And this is a perfect example on the main character. We just pushed it through and it worked, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned a lot to the point that now we got to be the annoying ones with outsourcing. We're like, not good enough. Eric would never approve of this. Cool.
Yeah, but I mean now, like, because the outsourcing thing is cool because it gives the artist a chance to literally art direct the character, you know, and I really very much encourage that. There's nothing more than I want for my crew to grow and learn and show that they can step up to the challenge and make decisions. So if you give them the right tools, you give them the right training, they'll just go and shine so bright. And I love that. I took a massive kick whenever I saw that they were just handling it themselves, and I didn't have to baby nobody. They were just professionals, you know. Yeah.
And then for the armor sets, bringing back all the experience that Eric had experienced. You experienced the experience. On the 2018 God of War, like, he already knew how to place, like where to place the guides so that we could all follow when we were doing the new armor sets. So he knew where the bracer had to end, and the chest area had to end, where the waist, like the highest point the waist could have, so it wouldn't bother rigging. The belt that needed to remain throughout all the sets, so we all had to sculpt up to that point so that it fit on everything. So, you know, he just did this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planes, and like, looks so easy, but like it took a lot of like thinking and through, and just with that simple step, all the armor sets now like magically fit, and
Yep.
it was just like a lot of
Yeah,
smart. He's smart.
It was awesome, and it was one of those things that, you know, I would think of it, do it, and then I would run it by the crew, and then, okay, let's put it into the test. We knew that we were going to have way more armor sets this time around than we did in the first game, so I had to come up with something that we can just send to people, and they would just be able to work without me having to like be like always on. So this is what we came up with. I believe other studios, they do something similar, and that was our way of doing it, and it worked. So
Some examples, and you
Yeah.
know, since everything worked from the beginning, again, we didn't have to do as many bug fixing on
Yeah,
this.
it was awesome.
So we had a lot of time to polish this, and I got to polish a lot of these armor sets, and it was really cool to see Kratos in game and just pushing the colors and the contrast. Yeah. The ice on these things were cool. I had done some ice cards for Surtur on some of his hard ice thing. And Andrew was the one that said like, hey, it would be cool if you got those ice cards to the
and we
set.
were like, what?
So that was a cool thing to add there.
Yeah,
like
so
all the ice.
I was blown away by the idea. Let's just add ice to hair cards. And then she did it, and now they were like, yo, let's roll with more ice and hair cards and other stuff. What? And it just looks so cool. I mean, we could have easily just done frost on a set, and that's it. But people, they love this stuff. You know, they wanted to look incredible. So you just go the extra mile. You just, maybe that day you don't take an hour lunch, you just take a 30-minute lunch, and then you bust out the cars that need to go in there. It just shows so much passion. Not that I encourage that. Please do take your lunches. Yeah, do always.
I was so hungry. I'm just kidding.
But it's always there for now. Like you can always get a sandwich later, right? But this is there. So.
It's not clicking.
Did it freeze?
Okay.
No.
More examples, awesome. The crystal one was made by texture by Amanda, and she kicked ass with that crystal. Like, I don't know if you guys had a clear idea.
It kicked my ass. I had no idea how it was going to work. I remember Grassetti saying, dude, let's make a crystal, but I don't know how either. And we were like, dude, let's just throw it at her. And she just like, let's bring it on. And then, yeah, she made it look like a crystal, and it looked awesome. And yeah, we were just blown away.
Yeah. Then more examples.
Yeah, just kind of maybe run through this.
Yeah, a little bit faster. But so when the New Game Plus came around, this fell on Amanda and I to do more variations on the existing armor sets. And this was a lot of like, just have fun, like make new colors. Like Eric was giving us some advice on what colors to go with. But this could be a little bit more crazy and a little bit more out there with the New Game Plus. And yeah, no, they just look super cool with all the effects and everything going on in the game. But this is one of my favorites, Amanda's crystal with the purple, super cool. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
Cheers.
And then Atreus, we'll go kind of quick on Atreus. We're running out of time. Yeah, so if you want to go to the next thing. So Atreus was when me and Della got our brains together, you know. We got our avatar tails just tangled up again. And we were in sync in what we wanted Atreus to be like. And working with the art direction from Grassetti, we were landing on such a cool look for Atreus. He has so many layers, and he could have easily gone out of control, okay? But I take a lot of pride on being able to manage that and control the thickness of all the layering of the different parts of his costume. And I remember having this conversation with Grassetti, might not even remember, but so like I gave him a little bit of a belly, and I was like, yeah, dude, because you know when boys are kind of young, we don't develop a chest, so the belly always feels like it's sticking out. And he was like, yeah, I guess so. And then he went home, and he has a son, and I think he came in the next day, and he was like, dude, I was looking at my son, and yeah, like so like so like boys do have that, and I was like, yeah, and he was like, but let's not go full on with that. And so we had that in mind. You know, obviously Atreus is not Kratos, so he doesn't have these big, broad shoulders and chest. And you can kind of see it in here in the costume, where he's actually feeling like it's a little sunk in a little bit, and it feels like there's anatomy underneath all of it. And you can kind of feel like the anatomy of his rib cage and the belly, and that actually pushes all the leather pieces out just by centimeter by centimeter by centimeter, and it just feels so natural. that was something that we were really proud of, and Della loved it, and Gracietti loved it. Where like it does feel like there's anatomy underneath all of this, like and it's also like for us, it never feels like it's a CG character. We never treat it like it's a CG character. We're super nerdy about this, so it always feels like it's real, and we're always after that real feeling. You know, you want me to go to the next one? Yeah. So that's it. That's my little story with Atreus.
Yeah, so these armor sets came, I think they came before all the other armor sets because they needed this for the promotional, like deluxe edition or something. But so I got to texture Eric's base custom for Atreus into the snow version of it. And it was a cool challenge doing white leather on white leather on white leather because he looks so white. And I didn't know how, like, even if I was doing like a lighter white, darker white, it still just, it looked boring. No. Like I just couldn't capture that.
Or blown out, right?
Or blown out,
It was hard.
So that one was a little tough. But then, you know, at the time I was getting a lot into volleyball, and I'm not that good, but I do like to play volleyball. And I was trying to get Eric into playing volleyball. And he's like, well, why don't you texture him like a volleyball? So then I started looking at reference, you know, Wilson and all these volleyballs, and like seeing how they were aging with like the yellows, the blues, like so many different hues on these whites. And yeah, so that was fun. That was a fun little
so it was crazy that we pulled the color scheme from an old volleyball, you know, and that was the right tone of white, and that was what worked for the game. You know, so it's cool.
And then your tier.
Yeah, so this tier armor, it was actually my favorite armor that I made for the 2018 God of War. And then it turned out that when we were looking for armors to bring back, it was everyone's at the studio's favorite armor set as well. So I was like, let's go with it. It's my favorite armor set. And so we just had to make a white version out of it. So that same Geo that we made years ago, it still has legs, it still has use, just because of how I work, where the geometry is always good, the UVs are always good, so we can just reuse and, you know, be smart with it. So, yeah. And
then the gold one on Kratos on the right, it was cool because the original armor set was made by another artist, and he sculpted a lot of stone, like heavy stone texture on it because it was the stone set. I forget the name. But then they wanted something different, and I couldn't just do a color change because it still looked like stone. So then I had to like remove all the stone from the sculpt and like re-sculpt it to make it look like metal and rebake it, but using the same geo. Like I couldn't touch the geo. So you get a lot of tasks like that where you have to like re-sculpt things for rebaking to do different textures. But yeah, leaving the geo untouched. And then here, you can see the volleyball stand out more a little bit here. Some texture variations for Atreus armor sets. This armor set was made by Andrew, and you know, cool doing like the different color variations for this one. Yeah, Freya, you want to talk about Freya?
Yeah, so Freya, obviously, you might have seen this sculpt going around. So again, it just landed on me, and I was able to execute and make it look awesome. The one thing that I always remember when I look at this, so you might not even be able to see it, but there's like all the stitches going around that waist area. Yeah, you see it? Yeah. So Gracietti looked at it and he said, dude, this character looks awesome. And it was, I even had messages from other lead programmers at the studio saying, dude, I saw what you did with Freya, and she looks incredible. So Gracietti looked at it and was like, Eric, this is so good, but I don't like I'm not feeling the stitches, you know? And I was like, dude, the stitches is what brings her together, bro. And he's like, I don't like it. And in my mind, I didn't tell him this, but so all the stitches are like this, and I work very linear, very destructive, which she always blows her mind away. So I had done holes for all the stitches, and I had no layer. I couldn't delete it, and I just didn't want to go back and fill up 200 little holes. So I told him, dude, she needs the stitches. And I think he's a smart guy, so he kind of like, okay, Eric, sure. And then we went into texturing, and so I ended up leaving the stitches in the normals, but then we got rid of the colors. So Gracietti was right, and so was I. There you go. There you go.
I'd like to go back to this one real quick. If you notice, all of our high-res models have the arms down
Yep.
and a relaxed pose. So we'd like to sculpt the character in a pose that represents their personality.
Yeah.
So you can still be symmetrical, but like we just want to advise you guys to sculpt your characters in a relaxed manner instead of like this. Like when a character is standing like this, you just don't get the feeling of how this character would talk to you or would stand there looking at you. So really, I know it gets annoying once you're done, then you have to do the retopo and you have to bring this back and maybe fix a lot of the stuff here, but it's worth it. Once the hands are down and it's more relaxed, then the art director can have an easier time seeing what the character is going to look like, and you'll get approval faster because it gets there faster.
And what I always used to preach since class, you don't know if you want to share with the, okay, so you always want to create the feeling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you want to go
yeah.
there?
So Rico always says that.
Since class,
I remember now. That you want to make it sculpted in a way where you feel that the character took 10 seconds from their life to come and stand in your ZBrush scene or in your Maya scene. You want to feel like they really are giving you a minute of their life, busy day, to come and stand there for you.
Yep.
So just kind of like have that thought, that in mind when you're sculpting, how things like kind of like relax when they sit there. So that's one of the things that I'm still learning. Like you tend to sculpt things too uptight, but then you just learn to relax, like learn to give gravity to everything, and it really makes a huge difference.
I think the moment you get that feeling that the character could walk out of your scene, that's when you know that you hit it. That's when you know it's not CG anymore. It actually feels like a real being. So you got to chase that, in my silly imagination, I always feel like when you close down Maya, the character went away, or you close down ZBrush, you just walked back into their world. It's a real feeling, okay? But you got to chase that. You got to chase that realism. If not, it just looks CG. It just looks like anyone or like someone who doesn't know or understand the character just did it. But for you, man, this character has to mean a lot, has to actually, you're like creating its world, you're creating its existence, so you have to, that feeling is, I'm having a hard time explaining it. But it's there, and you just know it. It just hits you. When it's about to speak, or it's about to walk, that's what you want. Until you don't get that, the character is not done. And you should feel that in T-pose. You should feel that in A-pose. Now that is hard, because I can give you a fantastic action pose. Yeah, the character looks alive. Can you do that in a T-pose? Now it takes a different skill. That is difficult. So you're just gonna, as you continue in your artistic journeys, chase that. Okay, how do you get that feeling of alive? And whatever character, this isn't alive, it has to feel alive. Yeah.
Another thing I like to point out on the sculpts is that you guys have noticed that we do leave the tiles, the cloth pattern and the leather tiles into our sculpts. And we do get asked a lot, like, why are you doing that? Why are you wasting time doing that if you're going to do it for texturing? Like, you can just do it later in texturing. So our answer is like, come on, it takes 5 seconds to drag the tile around, like,
come
right?
on, right?
You have a layer, you can delete it later. Like, it doesn't take time to just drag a bunch of tiles, but it does give the high poly, again, that feel of realness, like the texture differences.
Yeah.
And again, it makes it look more like what the end product is going to be, and so the art director is going to approve it faster too.
Yeah, art directors are such busy people, and imagine you don't want them to be looking at your work and like, oh, is this leather or is this cotton?
Like, oh wait, don't worry, I'm gonna do that in texturing later.
Yeah, you don't want that. You really want to show it to them. You want to be a great salesperson, and you want them to get the feeling right away. Okay.
Even if you get rid of the layer and do it in texturing again, it's fine.
Yeah, the world doesn't evolve around you. So these art directors they look at hundreds of things daily. So if they look at something and perhaps they don't have the time, you cannot take that personally. They have so much they got to do. So us, from a character point of view, we just prep it. We do it right. We do it, make it feel alive, real, physics, all that shit. So when the guy sees it or the girl sees it, just like, okay, good to go. On to the next thing. And so you work, they work, production flows, great. That you don't have to stop and explain, because at some later point, I'm gonna add.
Just imagine the tile.
Just imagine it's gonna look great. What? Do your job, And on this our armor set with Freya, I just want to make, so this is a quick little story. So the blue one, we were sitting on our pod, and Eric Williams, our director, came in, and he was like, hey, do you guys see the blue costume on Freya? And we were like, yeah. He's like, it's my favorite. It's so good. I was like, yeah, we made it, and that's the artist who did it right there.
Texture.
And Angela was sitting right there, and he didn't even know that we had done it. But he came in so excited, so happy, and we were just like, oh shit, we didn't even know it was gonna mean this much to him. You know, it was super cool. It was awesome.
It was our favorite too.
It was
She
also
looks
our
cool
favorite
in
too.
that
Yeah. Yeah. But to see the excitement on the director is like, yeah, let's go. You know.
Yeah. Go to the
Yeah.
berserkers.
So yeah, we're gonna start going a little faster.
Yeah.
Okay. We really want to give you guys time to shoot questions, and we'll try our best to answer.
So
Okay.
yeah, a lot of planning, right? Because there were like 13
Yeah.
berserkers, and we couldn't rig 13 different
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, so we had to get everyone involved. It was later towards the production. We didn't have the resources to do all unique ones, so we had to okay, let's go talk to rigging, and let's go talk to animation. Where can we sacrifice? Can we keep the body? Can we change the hair? No hair. Okay, can we do the helmets? Okay, what about? I think Grassetti was the one that suggested, can we just do helmets and shoulder pads? So yeah, I was like, okay, let's go. And then we did that. The base was already done by Bernardo, so we had a great solid base for the female and the male bases. So now it was just a planning that we had to do, and it worked out well. It worked out well. Everyone involved. There were serious conversations, but everyone being the professional that we are, we all want the game to have the greatest experience in the game. So. You don't always get what you want. No one gets always what they want. So, but we do what's best for the game. So, yeah.
But it's crazy that even though they're sharing so much of the same geo at the bottom half, they all feel different.
Yeah.
And then when we started actually pushing the textures in the game, and obviously with the all amazing combat moves and all that, they all feel so unique.
Yeah, so on the body right here, we were kind of, so in the first game, I had done a look dev exploration on one of the Hellwalkers, and Grassetti was like, oh yeah, dude, how about we do something similar? But then the shaders had changed, and we couldn't actually match it, and we were actually looking at this, and we clicked on the crystal in the background, and we were like, oh, maybe we just copy the layers for this material that the effects did, I think. And then we just copied it, put it into the body, and then Angela started tweaking it and adding different maps. And that's how we got the look for the body. It was kind of on the go, on the fly.
Yeah, and I think a little quick story, that was one of the last texture updates that went into the game, because it was pencils down on a certain day at 1 p.m. or something like that. And it was one day before, we're like, how many hours? We have 20 hours left. We can do this.
Yeah.
And so since what we said before, we didn't have as many bugs to fix, so we were really up until the last moment polishing and making things look better. So we were up all night. Josiah was online all night, Amanda too. The sound designers were up all night. It was a crazy night at the studio. And we were just here sculpting the crystal on the armor, on the body. That it didn't need it, right? The thing is already working in the game, but we just wanted to make it look that much cooler. And
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously this is not something that Sony told us to do or anything like that. We were just kind of hey, we want to make this cool. We want to enhance the experience. We got 20 hours. Okay, we can make it happen. Let's do it. It really was just, and it was cool to see that it wasn't just character art having that initiative. We saw other departments pushing for the same thing in audio and other places. So
yeah, we ended up going on a coffee run at 5 in the morning in Starbucks. They weren't open yet. We were waiting for them to open. And then it was just literally 20 hours of pushing the texture on all the variations, and I think.
Yeah, but I love those moments because it's almost like you're going camping with your best friends or whatever. It's it's a cool feeling, when you're doing it for the right reasons and you don't feel like you're being pushed to do it or whatever. It's it was everyone's choice. Let's push, let's get it done. We're almost there. Again, the right people.
Cool. A little bit about our decaps and decals workflow. So I'll just go through this real quick. We have this awesome tool that the tech artists gave us. to make the decals. So literally all we have to do is put planes where we want the cuts, and the tool like does it all. And then we're done, next. No, so the tool, like...
I mean, really, that's all.
Yeah, like it creates the edges, worn edges, and then it also applies the gory texture and the gory bits. So, there's a little bit of manual cleanup needed. And it's, as you see on the left ones, they're not meant to be seen isolated, but like when it's in the game with like the blood splatter, the effects, it really works, and it's a great way to work on this. Same with the decals. This decal sheet, Eric made it for the 2018 God of War, and when we opened it and saw it, like it was still holding up great. Like we didn't have to redo anything. It was working super cool. So we reused that for the damage. And then when it comes to more cinematic moments, we do put a little bit more love into it. So I didn't use the tool for this one. It was more like more art directed.
Yep.
Yeah, and then like the skirt, the shirt here has the decal the same way that the other ones would have the decal. So wait, you guys probably already know how to do the decals, but just in case, you just take the section of the geo, like you duplicate the geo, right? And then you just get the section of polygons that you want the decal on, erase everything else, and then you just push it out very tiny bit. But then the importance of that is that the geos remain the same, so then skinning when they will skin together and it doesn't look like it's floating or anything. And a cool technique with the blood is that you have your white mask. White is the blood, black there's no blood. But in our mask we try to get like a big range of gradient. So for example, in that little blood tier, instead of making it just white, make it like a gradient from like light gray to dark gray, so that in the game you can animate your mask. So when you crunch it, it kind of appears and it makes it seem like it's animating.
Yeah,
so then in the game you're just like crunching the values, and as you crunch on crunch, it's like the blood spreads or
yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, so it was really cool animating the mask and getting a lot of gradients in the values. Then it was the same way for Sindri in this moment, getting like the patches of skin where I wanted to do the bruises. And these pieces of geo were attached to the headband, so when our designers turn on the headband, that geo would also turn on. So it was, it's pretty simple to do. And then doing it for the creatures and the enemies, it's cool to go grab the animation files, because they're always so cool to look at and see where Kratos starts the cut, where it ends, and then now we know like the distance that we need to do the decal, and then just follow that, and that's how it looks like he actually cut it when they turn it on at the right moment.
Yeah, that with the sound, the animation, the blood, it just looks juicy. It looks cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So some more examples of just geo with the decals. You want to make a joke out of this?
No, this was a great joke that we prepared. Obviously, it was the most terrible joke we ever thought about. So
Next.
Next. Well, Brock?
Oh, Brock, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brock, I got to update Brock from 2018.
We're trying to rush.
So, Brock was already looking amazing. Like I had really had to do little work. Mainly the lower half got the update, and he also got the sleeves and the glove and the hat. I had a lot of fun working on the furry hat.
Yeah. So this was the one character. Was obviously Kratos is my favorite character, but this was a character that on the first game I would always open it up and look at when I wanted to understand the style that Grassetti and Della had kind of like created. So you always want to do that. You find the one piece that just dictates the level of how the belt's supposed to be, like the leathers, the style of the face, the structure, the anatomy, like everything. This character was the one that I opened up for the 8 years that I was there, almost every month, because it just did it for me. I feel like it's a perfect character. Yeah.
And then same for Sindri. You sculpted Sindri. I textured him, and I'll just move on to the next one, because the hat, I did the hat. It was cool because the concept had a kind of like a vague drawing of a zipper. So I didn't really know like how to make that. So then Eric had the idea to make like a little anvil. So like if you notice the zipper, they're little anvils. So cool little touch. And then this was probably one of my favorite tasks, was to make the sad and savage variation of Sindri.
Yeah,
and
and
yeah.
so this one was tough because, you know, like we share stories, everything is having fun and everything is happy and you're just working with friends. So this one, we had to, you know, go there, like a very serious conversation. It was a very crucial moment in the game for Sindri. And so I remember, even to now, probably won't even get too much into it, but I remember having serious conversations on, like, when you feel in this type of way, what do you look like? How does it feel? Like, when you feel pain, how does that represent on your face? And it was tough, but, you know, one of the beauties of being a character artist, you get to experience the full spectrum of emotions. So,
yeah, I got teary-eyed texturing this one, if I'm honest with you guys. Like, just the sadness in his eyes got to me.
Yeah, so it was great to see that come together with the performance of the character, with the texture work, with the feeling that we try to put just by the whole thing. And just when you look at it, you should feel that. When everything comes together, we were incredibly proud of, you know, we served a painful moment to the game very honestly. And so I put that in here just so that I share just a quick little thing with the hair. Josiah had done the hair flowing super cool. Grassetti had already approved it. And one of the few bugs that came in, we were like, oh, the hair is clipping and it has too many dreads. And it was at that point in the game where we couldn't really, you know, like Regan didn't have, Regan was asking us to please find a solution and where could we compromise. And so we ended up just tucking one of the hairs behind it and the other one on the side. And you can almost see it in the sculpt where she had more hanging hair. And it ended up okay. We always make it work, you know, but just wanted to share that real quick, just a quick little bug that we had that, and we solved it, and she still looks incredible. Kudos to Josiah and everyone that worked on it, so.
So this one was sculpted by Bernardo. He did an amazing job. He did the first texture pass for this one, and then I got to texture it and polish it in the game. And I think Eric took off his shoes. And
first the dirty nails, now the dirty shoes.
You need real world reference.
Like,
I'm not gonna say I use my feet.
I just want to say, like, this is a game asset. And look how awesome it looks. If you tell me that this is something from Blur or from any other cinematic studio, I'll say, yeah, this is a game asset. This is the quality that I always give her a lot of credit, and everyone at the team always knew it. So she came with this eye from Blur, or maybe even from their previous experiences, that she's just able to take textures that perhaps you could just make them look okay, but she makes them look spectacular. So everyone in the team had their own fortes, and definitely texturing to masterful levels was Angela's for sure.
I also like to say that a lot of it is because the sculpts are so good. So the way Eric was teaching us how to sculpt is you don't sculpt for your ZBrush badass render, right? Like, that's not the goal. You sculpt for the texture, right? So every time you sculpt something, make sure that there's no 90-degree angles, make sure that everything's going to bake good. So you have to think about the bakes, right, while you're sculpting. So since these guys are so good at sculpting, then, you know, there's that saying of like, oh, don't polish a third, right, when you're texturing a bad model. But then here I have the complete opposite experience where I was polishing something that was already so good. So, you know, whatever I threw at it with the colors, it already stood out. It already looked amazing. So
yeah, I mean,
it has to start from the ground up,
you're very generous, but obviously the textures are incredible.
No, but that's good.
But something that when I was a teacher here that I always taught students, because you don't sculpt for the beautiful render in ArtStation or whatever. It's a different type of sculpting, man. You really sculpt for the textures. Angles are different. The way the shadow hits the sculpt is different. So, I mean, I don't know if it's impossible for me to show it, but that is a real mindset. You don't sculpt for the sake of making something look pretty. You sculpt for the textures, especially in games, right? I'm talking about games, you know. If I was doing a toy, I would sculpt differently, right? But But you just know that because you're a great toy sculptor, it doesn't mean that you're a great game sculptor, you know? Because if you don't add enough pixels to where everything, it's not only around areas, on everything. If you don't add enough pixels to bake, who cares if this is the most amazing leather fold you did? Who cares? You just didn't bake, okay? But if you just add it like this, and then you add a little bit, and then you add some juiciness, that's it. That bakes, all the pixels have such richness just because of your sculpt. You sculpted it for the textures. And that, you know, that's hard, but they all do it at the studio, so yeah.
I think we're at time, so.
Did that even make sense? Yeah? Okay, good, okay.
So this, I'll just like go
Yeah,
through this
just
real
go through
quick.
this.
Like we just
Yeah.
wanted to show you guys like just the mileage we gave with 1Geo, just you know, like just all the different colors and pattern that we can get from the 1Geo, just to add variation to the game.
Yeah, if you see anything that stands out to you here, if you want to ask your question afterwards, just
can
go.
go
But
back.
we're just going to go through this kind of quick. It's 1 hour and 30. I think we did good. Can you remove that picture?
I'll go back.
She was supposed to
Final
take that
thoughts.
off.
So just like the last bit that we wanted to talk about was like the expectations when you graduate. You know, many people already probably know this, but I didn't know this. When I graduated, especially here from Gnomon, where everybody has some amazing portfolios, I got my first job as a character artist, and I went in there expecting to do a character. And you know, I went to Blur, and my first task was to make, I think, a folder, or my second task was to texture a lighter. And I was so deflated because I was like, but I thought I was a character artist. Why am I making props? And so,
Damn, Eric.
yeah, Eric didn't teach me this in his class. But then it's just like that mentality of, okay, if you're gonna make if they make you do a trash can, you make the best fucking trash can you can, right?
Yep.
Like this Konstantin Stanislavski, which is like the father of modern acting. He said there are no small parts, only small actors. So you can apply the same. Eric told me that quote, but you know, applying to our industry,
Yeah,
which there are no small tasks, only small artists. So if you get that trash can, just kick ass on that trash can, because there's a reason they gave you that trash can, right?
Yeah.
They want to see if you know how to do a trash can. Like if you can't do that, then what makes you think you can go get a character?
Yeah, from a lead perspective, so there are many, so much is going through my head on everyone in the team and different tasks coming in. So there's so many purposes to that task, that first task that you're getting, so many reasons. You know, it could be we just want you to go through the pipeline. You just need to adjust to the art style. You need to understand what the fit backgrounds are like. So if we give you a lamp, you know, and you kick ass in the lamp, we're gonna give you the room. And then once you kick ass on the room, you're gonna get the building. But just imagine that if you stop at the lamp and you throw a tantrum, you know, that's it.
And it happens a lot.
And it happens, you know, not in our crew, because I guess I could be a pain in the ass, and I would always make sure that everyone that came in had the same mindset, that they understood what they were getting themselves into, where there's a sincere love and care amongst the crew, okay? And that had to be established, that had to be harvested. That is just, you don't get that for free, okay? And I take a lot of pride on that every character, every artist that I work with, I really hope and I do know that they feel like they can take over the world, and that makes me incredibly proud. Okay, that is a good problem to have, instead of having an artist that, you know, I could have easily been a total jerk and beaten them down or not care at all and ruin their careers. But the way I was taught and the way that I was blessed with people from one of my early studios, Dexter, Kevin, and all these people that if they're watching, they know, and Scott, they just wanted to give you the power to be great, you know? And I did the same thing with my crew, and it makes me incredibly proud if they feel like they just want to be their own leads and be their own art directors, and that is an actual possibility, because no one stood in the way saying you can't. I said, why not? Let's go. And this is how you get there. Let's work. That was my mentality, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
so-
show my first task at
That
Santa
was a-
Monica. I didn't even sculpt it. Somebody else sculpted it. And then we had a library of chickens. And my task was to get the feathers from the chickens and put it on the dodo. And I was like, but I want to do
And
Kratos.
look at your latest task. It's
Yeah.
just Angela, and I had the same mindset when I was working on at the beginning. It was just whatever you send my way, you send me a trash can, it'll be the most incredible trash can ever. You know, just. I remember when I was at Luma, I know this is not a Ragnarok thing, but I was at Luma, I was making, because I saw one of the artists that worked with me in there. And I would make a building. I was working in the movie Insurgent or Divergent or Detergent, I don't even know. Totally not my joke, I stole it. And it was a great joke. And I was making a destroyed building. And in one of the buildings, I made a floor, and I was like, you cannot just have me do a destroy building. What do you think I am? I'm a thinking artist. I want to work with thinking people. So in that one floor, I was like, this is a dance floor. And the floor broke down, and then a piano landed in there. And then the disco ball landed, and it maybe killed someone. And then on the second floor, there was a pool, and it cracked in half. And I'm building this whole thing up in my head because I had to make a task that perhaps wasn't as interesting to me, okay? And it backfired because they loved the building so much, they started giving me more buildings, okay? And I hated that I couldn't mess up on purpose. But yeah, it's just a default that I have where whatever you give me, it'll be the best thing I could possibly give you. So, yeah. Hopefully that's a thing that you can carry through your careers, yeah? Awesome.
Check. Check. Thank you both so much. We're going to have a Q&A here in a second. So if you've been here before and you've been part of our Q&A, you just raise your hand and I'll get to you. Just really quick before everyone starts raising their hands for questions, I'll tell you. How many of y'all found this talk really helpful and insightful and super awesome? Yeah, there, yes.
Thank you.
So out of respect to our guests' time and obviously, to the company that they're coming from, there are 3 things that we would like to kind of circumvent for tonight's questions to kind of help you guide on what kind of questions you're going to ask. Obviously, everyone's going to be curious about machine learning and all that stuff, but that would probably be good for another time or when there's a lot of time because since we're shorter on time, we want to make sure we get to as many questions, so avoiding that would be very helpful. Also, all past stuff, perfectly fine to ask about. Anything else coming out? Any other kind of insightful stuff? Maybe we avoid that as well. And obviously, these are amazing character artists. They work really hard. They did fantastic sculpts. Try not to ask them about all the PSN stuff that's been going on. They're not gonna, help you out with that. And trust me, I already tried. So anyways, if you have a question, you can raise your hand. And if I don't get to you right away, I'll keep you in my mental log and then we'll kind of move from there. But I saw you first, so I'm gonna get you and then I'll come over to you.
Hi, so this game has a lot of high fidelity, super realistic characters, not just in a sculpting sense, but also in a narrative sense with how the ashes have faded on the Kratos' skin and the belts that are still there underneath. I was wondering on the technical side, how you fake subsurface scattering and things like that without killing the game's budget and how you change those techniques based on things like scale with Gorilla.
Yeah, you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great shading programmer, Nathan, an incredible programmer. And so since the beginning, I remember him asking hey, we're gonna have different, not only cinematics, but also different types of scales on characters. And you said subsurface scattering, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he was really just trying to gather information on how big the character was going to be, because that range actually does matter, okay? How much you're going to crunch the subsurface scattering. And so the way that he built I guess the logic of how the subsurface worked, we had a parameter that if the character was this big, we put that number, that was kind of okay. If the character was this big, a different number. And then we had obviously presets as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a good question, man. It was taken care of like that. Also from another Sony master that since the beginning took like the initiative to, okay, if we have a big character, what can we do? If we have a small one, what can we do? So yeah, he set it up for it like that.
Yeah, they're super smart at the studio.
Yeah.
Like, we get to like really have fun texturing, and they're the math wizards.
Yeah, I mean, as awesome as we are with the 3D and the art stuff, they're the same level when it comes to programming and coding. Everyone is like on a very, very high level. Cool, man. Thank you, bro.
Hello, Eric and Angela. Thank you so much for this talk. We're very blessed to have in a talk as amazing as this. My main question is about hair as it's expected of junior, standard, and senior character artists, because it seems like in your pipeline it's outsourced. It seems like in a lot of studios it's pretty niche to understand advanced AAA hair pipelines for games. So the question would be, to what extent is it expected of junior, standard, and senior artists to know advanced hair pipelines for AAA?
You want to talk about it? I can jump in after you if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you start.
Yeah, I'll start.
I'm
Okay,
blanking
so, all right, so I'm from a generation when the moment you said you're a character artist, that meant that you know how to do everything, okay? So Grassetti knows how to do hair, you know, I know how to do hair, you know? And when we're looking at portfolios, most likely we will also want to see if you have hair in there. It doesn't have to be the greatest hair ever, you know? But being a character artist is already limited enough. So if you already decided that that is your career path, learn it, you know, and be smart about it. Maybe you don't do a full groom if you don't want to just go down the grooming path, but it's good to have that knowledge, you know, because perhaps you might have to work with someone that will build a tool for you, and then you have some sort of knowledge on how hair works and different tools that you use to get to that, but yeah, I say just learn it.
When I started working at Santa Monica as a junior artist, I didn't have any hair in my portfolio. I mean, I was hoping for no hair in the background, like, don't look at me for hair. And then I got the first hair task was Brock's hat. And I was like, fuck, like, how do I do this? And I don't know if I ever told you this, and if I tell you the truth, like, I started freaking out, and I was like, oh, like, how do I make this? Like, do I try Houdini? Like, do I try XGen? And I think I tried that for a little bit, and it was just like a mess. I was like, oh, no, there's no way around it. Like, I just have to sit down and do it.
Yeah.
And so instead of wasting time trying to figure out a tool, I just did it. Like, it takes the patience and time, but if you just really do it, then you're not left with a big mess the tool gave you to clean up. It would be just easy to start clean, and then it just snowballs down. You know, it gets easier and easier as you go. So there is the expectation for you to know it, but most times there's a dedicated artist for grooming. Yeah.
Yeah, but usually there's so much you're gonna have to know, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, man. You look cool, dude.
Hi. I'm a aspiring character artist.
Let's go.
Thank you. I was just wondering, like, as a senior who's looking for juniors, what's your biggest, like, pet peeve in when you see portfolios or when you're hiring that you just wish junior artists would do less?
Show bad topology and bad UVs. I think would be mine.
Yeah, bad topology, bad UVs. I think be super harsh with what you have on your portfolio. You know, get friends that would tell you the truth and tell you, hey, like, remove that piece. You know, I know I've done that to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very sad and heartbroken, but I was very grateful because then I got the job at Sony, and I believe 100% if I had left that piece on, I would not have gotten it. And you know, it's hard to judge your own work, but you do have to find a person that's honest with you and tell you, hey, like, you should take that down. And trust them.
And it doesn't feel nice at all, like, for me as well, but I'm willing to, I'll die being honest, you know, so I've helped her and other artists as well, same way. If it's hurting you, I'll let you know, hey man, please remove that, it's not gonna do you any good. So go for quality, not quantity, you know? Yeah. Bad geo, bad UVs, that's good.
Yeah, hi, I've got a question. I haven't played this game yet, so I'm kind of flying blind. But I've heard a lot of people talk about the transitions between the gameplay and the cinematics being so seamless and so beautiful. Like really, it's just set a new benchmark for that sort of thing in games. I'm wondering, are you using the same geos, using the same assets between the gameplay and the cinematics?
Yeah.
Are they, because I think they used to be very separate.
Yeah, it's the same. So it was so easy on us. I've worked in games where you had cinematic versions of the same character, and then the moment it switches to a cinematic, the new mesh pops in. That's not the case at Sony, like on the 2 God of Wars that I worked on. Yeah, what you see is the fantastic model. That's why, you know, we're so picky with the UVs and everything, because in a way, it's already a cinematic model. You know what I'm saying? So they have like LODs, tools that obviously, I don't know if you know what the levels of detail that they do come into play, but yeah, as far as like how everything behaves, it's the same. What you see in the game is what you see in the cinematic. And there is obviously people who just handle cinematics and a crew that handles the cinematic camera. But as far as from us, from assets, it's what you see is what's in the cinematic. Yeah, man. Fair.
All right, so we got last question back here for y'all.
All right.
Hi, I'm really impressed when you talk about like how you learn on the job, how to do haircuts and everything. So I want to ask, like, you know, when you have to learn new things from your jobs, what is your strategy to like what strategy of being motivated and like continue to like, you know, learn even though you have very little knowledge about that things? Do you ask for helps, or like do you just keep doing it until it looks good?
So if you don't mind helping me kind of like break that question down, bro.
Yeah, a little bit louder.
Yeah, we couldn't hear as much of
sorry.
it. Yeah.
So I was impressed that Andrea, you know how to do learn how to do hairs during the jobs, and like from like scratch. And I want to know like what is your strategy to like learn from the job? What is your strategy to stay motivated and understand you're, you know, going the right direction even though like you have no knowledge of it? And like, do you ask for help, like etc. like that?
So how do you learn on the job, right? And how do you keep going even if something is not looking good? Yeah. Am I kind of like around the ballpark? Okay. Yeah. So I feel like me from like being in a lead role and working with Grassetti as him, the art director, and Della in a different lead in a different department, we all kind of like we get together and establish an environment where people have feel okay asking questions, where they feel it's okay for you to say, I don't know. Honestly, sometimes the most professional thing you can say is, I don't know, okay? And most people in the industry are awesome, man, and they're gonna feel like, thank you, okay, this person knows this and that, or I can help you with this. So tomorrow, whenever, we're gonna schedule a time. So that brutal honesty, I think you saying, I don't know, would help you, man. People would help you. Also trying, like you said, trying and it's not looking good, people would also notice that. And I actually love people that try, and I don't care if you fail, but I want to see you trying, you know. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, man. Just look for that environment that allows you to grow, you know. And if it's not there, cultivate it, man. Put it on your shoulder to like bring it up to production, bring it up to your art director. Hey, people are struggling with this and that, and I think we should do better at establishing an environment and a culture that allows us to grow. Because I'm committed to this place for the long run, like that. And I think that's super fair, very mature, and very professional, man. Yeah, good question, bro. Heavy.
All right, give it up one more time for our presenter this evening. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back for the next 2-hour presentation that Eric's going to do. But if you at home are interested on watching some more amazing streams, check out our entire YouTube page. If you're curious about what Gnomon can do for you, head over to gnomon.edu. And that's it. Thank you all here for being here. Thank you at home for watching. And I'm speechless, y'all. Y'all are just so amazing. Volleyball, Atreus, let's go. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time.